Hi, everybody. Welcome to Am I the Butthole podcast.
Wow, rebrand.
Well, did you see this? This is big news on the Am I the Asshole Reddit. Now they have Am I the Butthole.
Yeah, that's like where all the stupid posts go.
Stupid posts and weirdly enough, relationship posts.
Makes sense.
I've never understood it, honestly. I'm like, what? Relationships are sort of the backbone of everything. So, like, I don't understand.
Well, I guess because it makes you a butthole to be going on Reddit to find out if you're the asshole when it's like, okay, the problem is you should just talk to your partner.
Yeah. I guess it gets too repetitive. Honestly,
yeah.
At this point, I'm having to do digging, especially for our favorite little intro game. Guess the verdict.
Woo.
You ready for this?
I'm ready.
AITA for fuming at my girlfriend because she got a tattoo of my name.
You're the butthole. No, not the asshole.
You are wrong.
Okay.
This is actually kind of juicy. We might want to dive in a little bit.
Let's do it.
GF has a lot of tats that say things like, life is sweet.
Ugh.
And random shit
Oh, God.
on her forearm.
No.
And OP says, quote, makes her look dirty. Oh, boy.
Oh, no. Did you write this?
I didn't write this. I don't think tattoos make people look dirty.
No, you just think they're trashy, which is different. How?
Oh, boy. Cancel culture. Cancel me. I specifically told her that when she emigrates to Australia, she'll need to get rid of her tattoos for my sake and because she'll need to meet my family, which aren't too keen on tattoos.
So this guy doesn't know how tattoos work.
Right.
Cool. Okay. Keep going.
And I only include that because at that point, I'm like, oh, this guy's a huge asshole. Like, come on, dude.
Right.
But the thing is, he specifically told her not to get a tattoo of his name, and he's been trying to wrap his head around why she'd do that.
Anyway.
And that's it. And he's like, and so then he kind of says AITA for getting angry at her. Because I kind of feel like, and so the answer was YTA, so you were wrong.
Ooh,
by Science
See, now?
Dyke. I might be getting canceled for reading the username. Jesus.
Stu, okay, I want to hear this person's reasoning because now that I know the full picture, I'd go with ESH.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Science Dyke says YTA before you even got to the AITA. She'll have to get rid of her tattoos to meet your family. You're a major asshole if she accepts this treatment from you. I feel sorry for her. You need to grow up and not jump to the tune of your family, and your GF needs to dump you and get some self-esteem.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I definitely think he's the asshole, but this is why we play Guess the Verdict. I thought the scenario was like, I asked my girlfriend not to get a tattoo of my name, and she did it anyway, which is like, I don't know, it's just like fucking weird.
You're right. It is an ESH because he's an asshole for all the shit he said about tattoos.
Yeah, it's like,
but like,
do you know how tattoo removal works? It's extremely painful. It leaves a scar and it doesn't even necessarily work.
Right.
I know because I looked into it because I thought about getting a tattoo, but I was like, I really only want a tattoo for like 8 years. I don't want it for the rest of my life.
Is there like a henna, but not 14 days, 8 years?
Yeah, like a semi-permanent tattoo. No, they don't have that yet.
That's weird, though. 8 years is like a pretty solid commitment.
Or like something like that. I don't know. The rest of my life is just a lot.
Sarah's like, I'm ready to get married for a decade or so. Is that cool?
Look, that's a lifetime in celebrity marriages, okay?
There we go.
AITA for telling students to stay home if they didn't want to do their work.
What? Get YTA.
Yeah, it is YTA, but this person is like an even bigger monster than this headline paints.
Oh, boy.
Here's the deal. They are a teacher's aide in a 4th grade classroom.
Whoa.
Yeah. Some kids are just kids and they just fuck around and they don't want to do work as you do. OP basically went off on these kids and said if they don't want to do their work, they should stay at home because they're distracting other kids from learning. And now apparently the OP is like basically having a meeting with the principal on whether they get to keep their job. So yeah, the top comment from These Double said, YTA, these are children who, by the way, have to be in school by law, and maybe you should look into a different job avenue. The OP was like, well, if they're not going to do their work, they should get gym privileges removed. They should get recess. And it's like, no. And so then this person also added, also, gym class is required, not a privilege. This person's a monster. Like, oh my God, I hope you really don't go into education.
Right. I've had a lot of teachers like this. You give some people like a tiny bit of power and it's everything to them.
What is having power over 8-year-olds? How like, oh my God, how much of an ego trip do you have?
AITA for telling my nieces their grandparents are incestuous.
Oh my God, what? I have no clue. NTA.
My mother divorced my father and almost immediately started dating and eventually married his brother.
What? Wait. So wait,
Mom divorced
So
dad
it's not really incest.
and almost immediately started dating his brother.
How is that incest?
OP says that it's incest by affinity. Apparently that's a thing.
No. According to who?
According to OP.
The OP?
And he keeps
Oh my
saying it.
God.
That wasn't
Fuck
an edit.
this.
He's like,
Okay.
it's incest by affinities. Fuck you, Potts writes. YTA, come on, dude. This isn't even sugarcoating because it isn't incest. Incest is two family members fucking. You exaggerated a situation that was going to make kids feel bad about something they had no control over. No kid wants to be the product of incest. Of course they were going to be upset, and it isn't even true.
Yeah, that's fucked up. Okay, they're the asshole.
I have a little more to say on this because
Okay.
I think, first of all, there's some clarifications here. Incest is a crime. And what that means is basically when you fuck your kid, that's a crime.
I thought it's also like immediate family members.
No, it's not illegal to have sex with your brother. If
Well,
you're both
all
consenting.
incest is not a crime.
Well,
But other, like, having sex with, like, certain other family members is still incest, even if it's not a crime.
Well, I would push back on that a
Why?
little bit. Well, obviously.
Like, what are you using for these definitions?
Well, my own intuition, Sarah. I guess I look.
Okay.
My dad's parents are first cousins. Okay.
Okay.
And there's nothing wrong with it, Sarah. There's nothing wrong with me. I am a normal person. No, I guess that my only point on that is that so my dad's parents met very late in life. They met when they were 22 and 25, and they happened.
I fucking hate you. 22 and 25? That's not late in life.
Well, I mean, they didn't grow up together.
Okay, keep going.
You're old. That was
I'm like,
why.
I'm
That's
27. Like, what the fuck are you saying?
Wow, someone is touchy about their age today because that was
About
not
the
an
age
attack.
at which I have not met my soon-to-be husband or whatever.
You're 27. You're good. You're
Okay,
good.
just keep going.
Relax.
Just keep going.
Good God, the door is not closed.
I
for
know,
you.
but that's
You
you're like
psycho.
You're like those sports announcers who were like, oh, and there he goes. He's ancient at 33 years old. And you're like, what are you talking about?
Sarah, you're not a horse. You're good to go. No, so
Okay.
my only point was, I think it's hilarious that my dad's parents are cousins. I guess it's technically incest, but like
It depends on like the society. We learned about this in like my anthropology class.
Well,
some cultures don't consider like your first cousin's incest, but there's certain relationships that are considered incest like across all cultures.
If you have sex with your cousin, your baby will probably be normal. And if the problem is not when you have sex with your cousin, it's when you have sex with your cousin and then that baby has sex with its cousin. It's when the breeding pool keeps
inbreeding.
It's inbreeding,
Right.
where it gets like genetically. But I just wanted to have some empathy for any potential first cousins that are interested in each other.
Oh my god.
Because
okay.
look, if you met late in life, I don't think that's weird, and you happen to love them and they happen to be your cousin, that's okay. Because my dad turned out okay. I mean, he's bald, but he's okay.
Right.
So that's it. That was my little point.
Oh, okay. All right.
You seem to have vaguely accepted it.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know. I'm like, I get the point that you're trying to make, but I was like also not super relevant because this was not incest in this case, but you're saying even if it was, it's not bad.
Well, I'm saying that, like, look, there's a criminal incest and that's horrible, and then there's also like weird incest.
Because what you're
like, it would be weird if two first cousins grew up together and then had kids. That would be weird. I mean, who am I?
It'd be kind of weird, yeah.
That'd be super weird.
Yeah. Not weird in Alabama, and I learned that in anthropology.
Is that anthropology?
No, I'm
really?
joking.
That'd be so funny.
No.
First, we're going to talk about Australopithecus, but later we'll move on to other undeveloped societies, early human societies such as Alabama.
Such as Birmingham. AITA for pushing for foods that myself and coworker are allergic to be banned.
I don't like that. I'm gonna say YTA.
You're right. The story is so good. Here's the deal. OP's very allergic to avocados, allegedly. Can't even be in the same room with someone cutting open an avocado
I hate this
without
person.
having a severe reaction.
I'm an asshole, but I hate him.
Right. Coworker is apparently the same with bell peppers.
Oh, who are these weaklings?
I don't know. Then you have Q Karen over here who will repeatedly eat this stuff and cut it up in the office with no regard for human life.
She's a terrorist.
Right. So the question is, would OP be the asshole for complaining to upper management? Top comment from Lala Logical said, YTA for lying to Reddit about a fake allergy. Your symptoms are in no way associated with an avocado allergy. Shitpost.
Yeah.
And then most of the comments were like, this is clearly not real. And then the only other comment was from Birthday Party, said, NTA, you may be entitled to ADA protections for severe allergies, which are considered a disability.
Oh, God. I can't.
Do you think that's real? I don't know. I can't imagine, like, how do you even go about in society? Like, even Subway has avocado now. If you're really that allergic, like, how are you in society?
I don't know. I do have a friend who has, like, she said if I threw a shrimp at her, she could go to the hospital.
Like, if it hit her?
Yes.
Sure, that makes sense.
Like, it doesn't even touch her skin. Like, if she breathes shrimp air, it could kill her.
I guess I've heard it with certain things, like peanuts are a common one. Seafood I could see, but I've never heard about avocado, and it's just like, it's ubiquitous. How do you avoid it?
Yeah.
And bell peppers?
I mean, that's
Do you
bell
think this
peppers
is
are
real? I
water.
don't know.
No, I think it's fake.
I'm not a doctor, but that seems so like crazy. Also, like, do avocados have a smell from far away?
No, it's ridiculous. I don't think that's real. And I'm sorry to anyone who has a weird allergy, but
if you do have a crazy avocado allergy, please let us know.
Yeah.
I really want to know about it, and we will apologize if this is a real thing.
All right, guys, we got a couple of juicy stories for you today. Our second story of the day, AITA for demanding my sister pay rent for living at home with my parents and refusing to pay my rent until she does. But first, AITA for posting a tribute of my late girlfriend onto FB who died during the 9/11 attacks.
Oh boy.
By you, infamous Cut 7. I lost my late girlfriend on 9/11 when TWC Towers collapsed. She was on the 67th floor. I had no calls or texts from her. All I hope is that her last moments were painless and fearless. This year, I suffered a near-death accident. After it, I did a lot of looking back on my life, and having lost my family and friends in tragic ways, I decided to stop taking things for granted and began cherishing the people I am close with. So for this year, I posted a tribute for my late girlfriend onto my FB. It was just 4 pictures, one of her, 2 of us holding hands hugging, and one of us in her office when she first got hired. I wasn't too over-romantic, but said, quote, I'll always miss you, and you will always be a big part of who I am. I hope you are proud of me. A few hours later, though, my wife texted me and was furious. She asked if I loved her or if I wanted to get a divorce. She told me it was a slap to her face to post my ex onto my FB. Of course, I love my wife more than anything, and my intentions were not to harm her in any way, so I felt guilty and took down the post. Was I out of line here? I genuinely didn't mean to hurt my wife. I just wanted people to know what a great person my late GF was. AITA.
I'm not going to lie. When I first read this scenario, I picked up on a few things. Mostly I was just like, this just seems kind of, no, I don't think he's an asshole. It seems a little random and a little weird. Then I was like, okay, he was in the near-death accident, but then he says the accident made him cherish the people he's close with. I don't know. It just seemed a little random. I was like, why now is he posting this tribute when, like, seemingly he didn't do it before?
Yeah, I think it's very weird. I have I don't want to get into my big conspiracy theory. I want to start with a tiny conspiracy theory.
Yes, build on the conspiracy.
Who the fuck writes TWC Towers? TWC Towers?
Oh.
I have never seen that in my life.
No, you're right. I was like, the World Trade Center?
It's WTC.
Well, maybe it was just a typo.
Yeah, I guess.
Conspiracy busted. Okay, that's number 1.
I don't know. I think I see what your analysis makes me think this is bullshit.
Oh, wait, you think that this is made up?
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, it just left me with a lot of questions because I'm like, if this woman is really like such a big part of who you are, why have you never posted about her before?
Yes.
Why is your wife so angry as if she never knew? It left me with questions.
It left me with questions. Lexi G said, yeah, you shouldn't have done that. I'd be pissed if I was your wife also. How would you feel if she did that to you? I get it. You were devastated, but yeah, that didn't need to be on FBYTA.
I don't know if I'd go that far because
My angle is, look, what is this really about? That's my question for this guy. It's been a while since
Yeah.
9/11. I remember. I'm not saying I forgot. I'm just saying.
never forget.
Never forget, but it's been a minute. And I'm not going to sit here and say I've had my girlfriend die in a tragic terrorist attack.
Right.
So I can't fully empathize, but like, dog, it has legit been nearly 2 decades. And I'm going to go ahead and be honest. I actually think Lexi's onto something. Why did this have to go on FB?
Interesting.
What did you need? Did you maybe want something that we all like?
Like validation?
Likes.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this is a story. He has this story. Like, I don't know how grief works. I have seen some people post about grief on Facebook. I buy it. I get it. It's nice to get a bunch of likes, but like, wouldn't you rather, like, I don't know, talk to someone who knew her?
Right.
Like, this just feels like it's not really about her.
I know. I think on face value, I would not ever tell someone how to grieve. And of course, you have the right to post about people that you're grieving. And so that part doesn't bother me. It's like all of these unanswered questions are what's bothering me. Like if
Right.
this was a close family member or something like that, it's like absolutely not the asshole. But it's like this is an ex-girlfriend who like presumably has come back into memory after 18 years. So now I just want to wonder like why and what's going on.
Yeah, it's very odd. Loanna M says, I love you dearly, but you're wrong. 10 years ago, my late boyfriend died of cancer. My husband that I love to the moon and back takes me to visit his grave. It's about knowing your value. I can openly grieve and take a min every year on his anniversary, and my husband will hold my hand through it. That doesn't make me love my husband any less, but way more. That boy meant a lot for me back then. You can't take that away.
I totally agree with every single thing she's saying. I think that's fair. And also because she's kind of brought her husband in on this and she's
Absolutely.
like, hey, this is really important. I think the question that we're both having is like, why is the wife reacting as if this is a total shock? It could be one of two things, right? It could be like, this is totally random, has never ever come up before.
Exactly.
Or it could just be like the wife is a jealous person and she's like jealous of a dead woman and that's a little nuts. Or very nuts.
But
so
I
it's hard to say right now.
I know. It's not hard for me to say.
Interesting.
I think it's crystal clear. I will much sooner believe that he saw a like. I mean, come on. Look, this woman. This is beautiful that this husband takes this woman. Obviously, the boyfriend means a lot.
That's great.
They go to the grave. That is 100%. That is beautiful. That is,
right. I don't have any questions about that.
No questions. But I'm telling you that this is not that. This is some guy trying to spin that this girl meant so much to him, even though he never brings her up. Like, I'm sure his wife knows.
Yeah.
But, like, for him to all of a sudden go hard on it, he's trying to tell the story because he wants that validation.
Right.
What is this quote? I'll always miss you and you will always be a big part of who I am. That's the kicker. It's not a big part. It's not a big part.
Ooh, interesting.
Because if it was a big part, then the wife would know it was a big
part. Then it would have always been a big part.
Of course. Guy's full of shit.
That's kind of fair. I will say, like, the near-death accident, I haven't been in. Well, I probably have, but whatever. Not to my knowledge have I been in a near-death accident. So, like, maybe that would just kind of put your whole life back into perspective.
Right.
So maybe I'll give him slight benefit of the doubt there.
Yeah.
Just trying to keep it spicy in here with this conversation.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Genevieve R says, I wouldn't quite say YTA, but it's strange you wouldn't give your wife a heads up about this kind of post. First, even if you meant nothing by it, which sounds like you didn't, I bet a number of mutual friends didn't know how to take it either.
That was my initial reaction. It's like, okay, you're not the asshole. That you're just a little bit random right now.
Well, I could chew on that
seems
further.
A little random.
I could chew on this concept of meant nothing by it. What exactly does that mean? Meant nothing
it wasn't like
by it?
What did he say? It was not like, oh, you were the love of my life, gone too soon, I'll always love you, no woman will ever compare. Like all the things that he actually said were pretty innocuous. I think it was just the fact that this seemed maybe out of character or not habitual that's making people think he's the asshole.
Yes. I mean, I guess I'm just trying to figure out by meant nothing by it. In other words, what Genevieve is saying, this wasn't a jab at his wife.
Right.
That
No,
was
I don't think it was.
Nothing. Well, because
a lot of people are coming at the wife like, oh, you're so fucking insecure. You're jealous of a dead woman. What's wrong with her? You should divorce your wife.
right.
Like a lot of comments said something to that effect.
Right. But I guess what bothers me about this phrase, and I'm not really taking issue with the way Genevieve is using it, but just this notion that you get to mean nothing. I don't know if that's true, that you get to mean nothing. And I think this I can kind of spin this into some topical topics here, but like, I can't mean nothing, right? Like, nothing I say can mean nothing.
Yeah, you're being nitpicky. He obviously meant something by it, and the something that he meant was to pay tribute to someone he cared about who tragically passed away. When she says she means you meant nothing malicious by it, it was not a slight at your wife. That's what she means.
Right. No, I understand her. I'm not coming for a comment. I'm coming for the phrase. Oh, I meant nothing by it.
Oh, so now we're language critics now? Okay.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's a bullshit phrase because it's a bullshit idea.
Okay.
Oh, I meant nothing by it. Well, you said it there, didn't you, Ringo? Well, I feel like you're not hearing me, Sarah.
I'm hearing you, but it's like this is weird semantics, and we could do this with any idiom. Like, oh, you bit off more you could chew. You're not really biting anything. You're not chewing it.
Whoa, do not come for my favorite phrase. You bit off more than you could chew. It makes a lot of sense, right? Because you took a big bite, and sometimes you take too big of a bite, okay? I am not talking about something trite here. I think, first of all, I think idioms contain a lot of wisdom, so I feel very personally attacked. But I don't think every idiom contains wisdom, right? Hear me, Sarah. I feel like you're not open to what I'm going for here.
I get what you're saying. I just think this is such a like semantic argument.
Well, I think it's interesting. I think this is juicy because I think there are a lot of people who think they get to mean nothing by it. Well, that's just not true.
Well, I do think intention does play a role in these types of relationship issues.
But
that's kind of the point.
Of course. Well, yeah, I'm not talking about this issue. I'm talking about.
But yeah, you're in general where it's like, oh, I didn't mean anything by it. I think it's implied like I didn't mean anything malicious by it. I think that's the implication, and I think that's fine because intent does matter to an extent. It doesn't give you a jail out of free card, but it's an important factor to consider sometimes when you're hurt.
I'm talking about people think they can say shit and then mean nothing by it. Well, if it hurts the other person, you don't get to just go, oh, well, I meant nothing by it. That's it. That's what I'm butting up on. This is again coming back to a phrase we talked about before. The intention doesn't erase the impact.
Right.
So that's why that phrase is triggering me. Okay. Because it's like, no, you don't get to, that doesn't even, you know what? That phrase means nothing by itself. It means nothing to say you meant nothing. You meant something. You meant something because you said something. Fuck you. Ringo. I don't know why Ringo.
Why is Ringo? Look, he didn't do anything.
I know. I'm sorry, Ringo Starr.
He's a great man.
Because, that's what that is. I see that as it's very much like, oh, it was just a thing I said. I meant nothing by it. And it's like, no, you don't. I'm repeating myself. I'm getting senile. Sophie L says, NTA, having loved someone who has passed away doesn't change your capacity to love and have meaningful love. Now, your tribute was to the person, not the love you shared or the life you had. You learned a lot from the loss, and it's okay to remember that. I understand how having loved and lost someone in a way that doesn't allow for closure could make her feel insecure, but her reaction wasn't fair to you.
This question is interesting because I think there are two parts, and depending how you look at it, depending how you look at each part, I feel like influences your verdict. Like on the one hand, it's how do you process grief and how do you honor people like who've died, who you loved. That's one half. The other half of it, I think, is like being performative about it on Facebook. Yes. And like depending on where you feel in both of these like things impacts which way you're gonna go. Like this is like ironic that I say this, but I truly don't post about like personal stuff on Facebook. I don't post about like deaths of loved ones. Granted, I haven't like lost anyone that close to me who like wouldn't have died of natural causes, like I've lost grandparents. Okay, so have all of us. But like I don't post about that stuff on Facebook. Like I'm not one of those people who will post like an annoyingly long tribute to your dog who you had to put down because they were 57 years old. So like I don't relate with, I guess I'm just saying like I don't relate with grieving that way. So it's like maybe that's why I'm skeptical, is because it's not my inclination to do that.
Right.
But if you are that type of person, I feel like you would get it, and you would think that the wife was like, again, being insecure, trying to dictate like how this man honors his dead girlfriend. And
I always got to go back to the holistic picture. Sure, we could say the wife is a crazy kook. But
That's a little extreme.
yeah, I don't like that. I don't think that's likely. I think what's likely is that this came relatively out of the blue, and this guy played it up.
Then again, she was like, she saw a post about a woman who's clearly deceased. And instead of being like, hey, what's the deal? Why'd you post that? She was like, do you still love me? Do you want to get a divorce? It's like, okay, what? He doesn't want to divorce you because he's mourning someone he used to date. That's like not rational.
Yes, but for her and to empathize with her, because look, let's face it, his emotions are 20 years old and her emotions are right here and right now. So I give
Okay.
her a big fat pass because that's weird. That's weird. You know, if you posted, oh, I always miss my old podcast host, you know,
and you're like, hey, I'm not even dead yet.
yeah, yeah. You know, that would be interpreted in some kind of way. So like, I think his post was disingenuous and I think she was hurt by it. And maybe she bit off more than she could chew with the divorce thing. But Sarah, I think she was hurt by this because that's abrupt. Like if my girlfriend randomly posted something like that, I think it would hit me on a gut level. It wouldn't be an analytical like clearly she is dead. So what is the big problem?
Right. But I think you'd be more like, hey, is there a problem in our relationship?
Well, I'm saying
immediately go from like, do you want a divorce?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying like he made this bombastic, ridiculous post out of the blue, and then she had a big reaction. It's like, well, I give her the pass for saying a crazy thing like, do you want a divorce? I grant that it's crazy. I'm just saying she has a right to be crazy and reactive, whereas his thing was calculated.
Okay.
Findles the Human writes on Reddit, top comment, YTA, but very gently, it's entirely possible to fully love your wife and still miss your ex. That said, I think you could have worded your post differently to be just a bit more sensitive to your wife. Something along the lines of remembering you today rather than I will always miss you would have relayed the same sentiment. Your wife may be insecure, but it's a difficult sitch. She might logically understand that jealousy over a dead woman is irrational, but that doesn't stop her from feeling that. I advise you to offer her reassurance and keep an open dialogue about your feelings and your ex.
I do always side-eye people who do this kind of like performative social media grief.
Sarah, God,
but then also like I can't relate, so I don't want to tell people what to do. It would be one thing if it's like, okay, because there's like a spectrum. So the people who I can really come down against is like, let's say you tragically died in a car accident and like someone who, all right, I'll change it. Let's say I died in a car accident and like some random girl in my first grade class who I've never spoken to since first grade posted this like long ass Facebook status about no. I would haunt her from beyond the grave.
Right.
This is a grayer area because like they clearly had a relationship that was meaningful. So it's like, okay, you're not being a total grief tourist by posting something to this extent.
Yeah, but I just, I mean, I agree. It's not total grief tourism, but I don't know. I don't know that I buy that this many years later that this is like fully about her. I don't really buy that.
I mean, it could be about him a little bit because he did have this near-death experience. Maybe he's like, I don't know, cherishing life more, I guess.
I think he was being fake. I think this is horseshit. I think it was 9/11. He was like, oh, Cindy died on 9/11.
Oh, God. If he did that, that would be so monstrous.
I mean, I don't think it's completely false, right? I'm just saying, I think he played it up. I think he saw a Facebook opportunity, and then that fit into the rhetoric he said, and so that's why his wife flew off the handle, because she's like, what is this really about? Like, what is this really about?
Maybe. But that's so crazy. I mean, I know people do this, but it's so crazy because it's like, it's a Facebook Live. First of all, nobody even goes on Facebook anymore. It's just your parents and their friends.
Hey, don't shit on the Facebook group.
Are you really gaining? It's so,
well,
like,
what
why
are you
would
gaining
you do
from
something?
any of this? It's all bullshit. I mean, you're like, oh, well, why would someone lie about their 9/11 girlfriend emotion? Oh, people fucking slam milk jugs on the ground and they explode. And, people do all kinds of crazy shit on the internet. They drink a gallon of milk. I don't know why.
I don't know.
Clearly, I'm on a milk internet.
Milk subreddit.
Kitchu22 writes, the intention got a bit lost in the delivery. Quote, I wanted people to know what a great person my late GF was, but you didn't seem to mention anything really about her, just about how her absence impacts him. If he had first explained to his partner where he was coming from, it allows her to play an active part in the healing process, which makes her feel less threatened by the out-of-the-blue declaration. Gentle YTA.
I think this person is hitting the nail on the head. Because it kind of goes back towards what Iona was saying.
Yeah.
about how it's not about the fact that he was grieving. It's about the fact that if this is important to him, then then his wife should know about it.
Absolutely. And Sarah, what about this quote? I feel like this is backing me up big time. The quote wasn't about, there was nothing about what a great person she was. It was all about him and his feeling. It wasn't a tribute.
That was a good point.
This was a fucking light grab. 9/11 was a light grab.
Stop it.
Top descending comment by Wilsons_human writes, NTA, some people don't understand what it's like to lose a partner. There's always a connection there. And while it's possible to love someone else and live a full life, love someone else and love someone love.
Live, laugh, love.
It's possible to live someone else. Oh, that's what they wrote. I'm not even saying it wrong. God damn it.
Love
I was like,
someone else and live
a
a full life with someone.
You won't forget your deceased partner. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's fine.
We have two extrapolating camps here. Extrapolating camp 1.
Extrapolating camp.
Literally, extrapolating camp 1 is like the wife is jealous of a woman who's dead. Extrapolating camp 2 is this guy is mining Facebook likes. And both of these make you sound bad. So, I don't know.
So I'll tell you what you know, that this guy is an asshole. Are you ready to push back on that shit? Because I'm done with this guy.
I still have more questions, so I'm gonna go with no assholes here.
Are you fucking serious?
Yes.
Oh my god. Sarah, listen.
Just trying to give him the Benny of the D. I hate that I said that. Please just
got you.
Throw me off your balcony.
You're gonna
now.
love my little phrases.
Oh my god. You use what was you just said earlier? Nabes, and I was like, no.
Hell yeah, I love names. All right,
neighbors.
hold on. I got one final jab.
Oh
on
god,
you.
okay.
I got one final move here. Sarah, let's just go over the case here. This guy posted on 9/11 this saccharine, ridiculous post.
It's not that ridiculous. It's 3 sentences
of character, and it was out of the blue. And let me tell you why I think his wife had this reaction. Because this guy doesn't do shit like this. Not only not about 9/11 girlfriend, but ever. And that's why it hit her so hard, because he doesn't ever say saccharine shit like, I'll always miss you and you'll always be a big part of who I am.
But he said this year he suffered a near-death accident.
What the
If that hadn't happened, if there was no like life-changing event that spurred all this, I would give him you're the asshole. But like, okay, I can acknowledge like maybe this happened and made him reevaluate his life. Like, I'm just not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not ready.
No, I'm
Info
ready.
is my verdict. Info.
I hate it. YTA, I said I hate this guy. AITA for demanding my sister pay rent for living at home with my parents and refusing to pay my rent until she does.
It's such a long title.
By you, Lotus Throwaway 333. Background. I graduated from college 4 years ago and live at home with my parents. My sister graduated 2 years ago and also lives with my parents. We both got jobs pretty much straight out of college. I pay my folks $800 a month in rent since my first paycheck. Last night, my parents were talking loudly about their financial problems in the living room. I overheard and offered to help by paying more in rent. I was thinking $900 to $1,000 since it covers utilities, phone, and internet. My parents are grateful. Now, prior to this, I never asked my parents how much sister pays in rent. I always figured they charged us the same. So absentmindedly, I asked a follow-up question. Me, how much is my sister paying for rent? My mom, nothing. A long-ass pause ensued. Me, what do you mean she doesn't pay rent? My dad, visibly angry. Your sister doesn't pay a fucking thing. My dad explained how my sister recently bought a brand new car and hasn't paid insurance on it, so my dad had to pay for it. She doesn't pay rent. She doesn't pay utilities, phone, nothing. So for the past 2 years, she's been living rent-free while I've been paying my parents. So later that night, we had a family sit-down. My sister didn't want to pay rent, especially at how much I was paying. She offered $100. My parents suggested she pay $300. I pay $800, which my sister and I both rejected. The conversation ended with this. Sister, F you. I'm trying to live my life. Those were her exact words, which pissed me the F off. So my sister storms off to her room, and it's now me, my parents, in the living room. I'm extremely upset at this because it's massively unfair. My mom is upset that everyone's angry at each other, and my dad's angry. My sister won't pay rent. She won't move out, and both my parents don't want to get the police involved.
Why is that on the table?
That's weird. So I say my part before leaving. Me, I'm not going to pay any more rent until she does. It's only fair, right? And if I do pay rent, I pay whatever she's paying. My mom, what if she pays $300 and you pay $800? No, my mom. But we really need the money. Me, that's too bad. I get up.
We should have role played this. That would have been fun.
I know we've missed the opportunity. This is really long. I get up and go off to my room. So this morning my dad comes in and tells me that, quote, I'm an asshole for not paying rent, that I should pay rent because it's the right thing to do and all this shit. I'm like, what the hell? Make my sister pay rent. My mom, who's listening in, says, you've seen her. She won't listen to us.
Woo.
I said, well, that's too bad. My mom's like, well, we wouldn't have this problem if you didn't try to make your sister pay rent. That was the last straw that blew it for me. I slammed the door on my parents. As I'm typing this, my parents are in the living room discussing how both their children are rotten and shit was better back in the home country back in their day when kids listened to their parents like WTF.
Okay. A lot to unpack.
A lot.
A lot to unpack.
Oh my God.
Should
I can't.
Let's role play. I'm the sister. No, let's not. I don't know. I think like this to me is kind of a case of like it's not really your business.
What?
It's like you decide to make it your business. I guess I just don't understand what OP wants now. Like, yes, he wants him and his sister to pay equal rent, or her. I don't know the OP's gender. But in the absence of that, then it seems pretty clear to me your options are to like suck it up and do whatever your parents want because you're living in their house, like they're effectively your landlords, or you move out. Like I don't really understand like why he's worried about what the sister is paying. Like, yeah, it's not fair, but then it's like, okay, what are you going to do about it? And it seems that you have two clear options.
No, I think you're wrong.
Okay.
I don't think he can necessarily leave because that money feeds into his parents' income and they need it.
So then you'd kind of be a dick.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's his right.
Yeah.
I think this goes back to that, but there's deeper obligations here.
Okay.
And I think the parents are really.
So then I think you are kind of being an asshole if you're going to withhold money from your parents who need it because your sister is being petty. Like that seems like a separate issue.
Well,
because he was paying it the whole time and didn't care.
This is on her parents.
Yeah, the parents are being bad because they're enabling the sister.
They're being assholes.
Yeah.
Not only are they enabling her, they're enabling a vast visible difference.
Yeah.
She's got this car. This is crazy. This is unfairness. And the parents, they were weak with their daughter and they let the daughter push them around. And now they have this vastly unfair situation. Right. Why should OP now be trapped? And the parents are unwilling to take responsibility for their actions.
I feel like the OP is necessarily trapped.
Well, I know, but I think it's easy for you to say that, but I don't know the margins here. I mean, the fact that he pays $1,000 rent makes me think that, I don't know, maybe his parents have a mortgage in an expensive city, so their house isn't necessarily huge. Maybe he's paying market rent, so they live in a small but expensive house.
Yeah, I mean, the parents played themselves because they're paying for the sister's like new car, her utilities, her phone bill, etc. And yet they're like relying on their other kid to help them out with their bills. They truly played themselves.
I know, but I think it's easy to say, oh, well, fuck him, fuck your parents. But, I think there are family systems that can be tough to escape. But, yeah, I mean, look, that's how I am. When I turned 18, I was like, I am not going to live here ever again, mainly because I want to get blacked out. I've changed a little bit since then. But so I see what you're saying, but I guess I do think there's something to be said about feeling for your parents. And like I said, we don't know what the margins are. Like, is this $1,000 a month really going to wreck them? Like they're going to struggle? Like they're going to struggle for their mortgage? Like, I don't know.
I suppose my question is, this didn't end in a final AITA. So I'm like, what are you mad about? Because they were paying $800 a month this entire time, irrespective, right? Irrespective of what the sister was paying. So now, like, what do they want? Like, they're not the asshole for being mad that this is unfair because it's like blatantly definition unfair. They're not threatening to move out. So yeah, maybe that's my problem is I don't really understand. Like,
I feel you
like,
now.
What are you worried that you're the asshole about?
Well, so they're okay. Yeah, you're right. Because it is kind of complicated. Are they the asshole for demanding that she pay rent and refusing to pay rent until she does?
A little.
That's a
Because it's
little
not
weird.
it's not
Yeah.
like your call, it's your parents' house. They're setting these rules. However, I don't know, counterproductive they may be. Like you don't this the sister doesn't or the sister brother doesn't really have the power to demand their sister
Right.
pay rent.
No, it is a little different because yeah, it's like, well, move out. You're right. It's just like, well, move out. Why? So maybe you are an asshole because, you should just be saying like, all right, well, if you're not going to run this household in a fair way, then I'm out. You can't really stay there and refuse to pay rent. That
That's kind of what I'm saying.
there we go. We found it.
All
Yeah,
right.
that is a little, because now you're squatting in a sense, right?
Yeah,
Like, apparently your sister has different rules,
which is fucked up.
but refusing to pay your rent, it's
OP is basically saying, am I the asshole for wanting to live in my parents' house rent free when I've been paying rent this entire time? And I just like up in one day decided to stop paying them rent.
well, I mean, what I would say is fair. I don't know. Now I'm kind of backing off because I'm like,
Who?
look, they've been fucking him. They've been unfair to their children. Okay.
They've been unfair.
And I would say, listen, well, whatever, Gloria or whatever, Jenny,
Okay.
she's been here, all this time. And I feel it is only fair, you're my folks, that I now get however long she's gotten rent free. I want to live rent free now. And that is the fair thing to do. I think that is a fair demand.
Sure, but I guess.
I wouldn't say that makes you an asshole. I would say, listen, mother effers, I don't care what happened.
You're kind of being an asshole if you acknowledge that your parents actually need this money and you're just going to screw them over by not paying them rent and still living there, so like they couldn't theoretically rent out
You're
your
right.
room or something
Well,
like that.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you should take out a common sense approach and be like, listen, I know there's financial problems, but I want you to know that I feel this is deeply unfair. I want that acknowledged, and I want to eventually, hopefully, be paid back if that is possible, because I feel really hurt and I feel the unfairness,
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. You're right that if
don't
he
know.
was to double down and be like, I'm not leaving the house,
Right,
I'm
it's
staying
like-
here, I'm not paying rent, and I'm screwing you financially because they have financial problems. It's like,
Right.
well, yeah, that now you are becoming the bad guy. Daniel J. Parafan writes, Americans in this thread, check your privilege. They need help too. He can't just abandon them, but she needs to pay, brah. If you move out, you're leaving them high and dry. Money is so hard to come by and it breaks family up. Some Eastern Asian and Latin ones live at home until you get married. It's different than what we're used to, but so be it. Dude pay, but she needs to pay too.
I included that just because I thought it was an important perspective, because most of the thread was like, well, you're not the asshole, just move out. It's unfair. Like even in Reddit, it was like, oh, $800 in New York, you can get a great place in Brooklyn, which is a fucking lie. Like, no, you can't. Maybe like Bed-Stuy. Like,
you could get
deep bush.
a place.
You can get a place.
A
It's not going to be
place.
nice.
It will
But
be.
so everybody else in Reddit was like making it seem like, oh, well, you have $800 to spare a month. You could just get your own place. What he is bringing up, which I think is important, is like, no, there's like deeper ties at play. It's not like when I was living at home, my parents were like, whatever, come, go. Doesn't really matter. Like if you live here, if you don't, like it didn't matter to them. Do you know
Right.
what I'm saying? It's like, this is clearly deeper.
Yes.
And it's not just like, yes, you could move out, but it's like, if you're going to screw over your parents, then, okay, we should acknowledge this angle that's different than probably what we're used to.
Yeah, and his parents are in a bind, and that needs to be acknowledged. And you know what? They in their defense a little bit, they're probably carrying a lot of shame
Sure.
about the fact that they ultimately cannot provide and have
Yeah.
been relying on this OP. And that's a pretty high demand of empathy, but like they are your folks and they raised you, and and
Right.
it sucks. I mean, that really sucks, and that just makes me feel so privileged. That's a wake up call, because I have really good parents, but and we never struggled financially, and like God, I feel even guilty saying it, but what a joy. I never even thought of myself as, because it's like there's rich people. And being rich is wonderful, but to never have financially struggled and never have that be an issue is really, that's what you need.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
You don't need to be rich.
No.
Just to not have to worry about like, when are you going to eat next, or
Yeah.
how are you going to afford your mortgage?
Right.
It's different. Yeah, I feel that.
Kathy H. writes, the parents are the a-holes if the only reason they won't make her pay is, quote, they can't get her to obey them. They're actually going to make her life harder if they don't teach her how to be responsible.
I agree, but she's like, what, 22 at this point? I think that ship has sailed.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like, it's too late, bro. So what are we going to do now?
honestly, put these kids in a room together, say you're both rent-free, rent out the other room, you got the same amount of income coming out. It's a little bit uncomfortable, but...
Yeah, or something. I don't know.
Kyrie E says, YTA, either both of you pay rent or your parents need to put your stuff outside and change the locks. Paying equal rent is fair, but maybe consider a scale based on how much you each make. Yeah, I think that is fair, and I think this is a communication issue. For them to not have communicated this to him.
You mean, well, that's too bad is not good communication?
Yeah.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, I think that could have ameliorated this a lot because, yeah, I think that's reasonable. I think it's like, hey, your sister, she works at Chipotle, so we're having her pay us in 47 burritos a month, and we need you to pay dollars. That you want that to be equitable. Foible Schmoible, top comment on Reddit, NTA. You've paid about 19 grand in rent while your sister has paid nothing? Oh, hell no. Your parents are being ridiculous and your sister is a user. How financially difficult would it be for you to leave? I wouldn't stay with them if it was me.
I know, but this is just ignoring this whole supposed cultural aspect that I think is important.
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a cultural aspect and there's just like, look, I mean, most of us don't know. We don't know what it's like to have parents that are struggling, but they're people too.
Right.
My oh my, Mike Tyson. Wow, that might be a top 5 Reddit username right there. NTA, these kinds of parents push off the difficulty to the children they know will be responsible or at least quiet because it's easier. That's why OP's mom thinks it's OP's fault for bringing this issue to light instead of the sister's fault for not paying rent in the first place. They'd rather cater to the sister's temper tantrum and shame the dutiful child because they know it's likely to be more effective and met with the least resistance.
I do think that happens. I think it'd be like that sometimes in families.
Absolutely. I think that's a great insight, and that helps me understand the parents even more because this sister, maybe she's been like this for a while and they've accepted it. And, the car could be a necessity. Maybe
but I think it's like a luxury car.
It's a luxury car?
Or like a new car.
It's a new car.
Let's see.
Never buy a new car, people.
I know. It's
not
just
to be
throwing money away. It depreciates.
Right? Get yourself a Prius with 80,000 miles on it. Now that is a car.
I know, right? Brand new car. They bought her a brand new car.
That's insanity and makes me sick. Okay, I'm starting to hate
I know,
the
that's kind of why I'm like, I hate the parents. It's one thing because fair, like, I don't know, equal is not always fair, right? Like,
right.
Splitting something down the middle is not always fair. Like, we don't know how much money the sister makes, blah, blah, blah. But then when you're like, you bought her a brand new car and she lives rent free and all of her bills are paid for, but your other kid is paying you rent and everything.
Yeah.
It's like, yikes.
Yeah. This is a tough one, but in the end, I'm going to kind of stick with what I said. I think that I can't call this guy an asshole because I think his parents are responsible. And look, letting her get a new car is just like, look, your daughter's out of control. That's on you. I don't blame this guy for demanding anything. That's where I'm landing. AITA for demanding my sister pay rent, for living at home with my parents and refusing to pay my rent until she does. I say, not the asshole.
I think he's not the asshole for demanding this. He might be the asshole if he decides to screw his parents over.
I can't, Sarah, because they screwed themselves over. They bought their daughter a new freaking car and she's living rent free. No.
Interesting.
I'm gonna run out of sympathy for them.
Yeah, I mean the parents like do objectively suck. Ooh, okay. Maybe I could go not the asshole.
Got him. All right, it's time for everybody's favorite part of the show, listener submissions. AITA for not bringing stuff to a party. I am known for the large and elaborate parties that I throw. I never ask people to bring anything because I am a planner and have worked these things out. Some friends still bring things, which is always appreciated, not necessary, but I understand the we want to contribute mentality. When I'm invited to a party, I tend to just show up unless someone has asked me to bring something. I was invited to a party and I showed up empty-handed as I was not asked to bring anything. The hostess greeted me at the door and seemed cool that I was there. There were several people there, and I walked into a conversation the hostess was having with some other guests where they were talking about people showing up without bringing anything. I interrupted the conversation and said, "Did you ask people to bring things?" Because I was not asked and I did not bring anything. One of the hostess's friends told me it was selfish and rude to show up at a party without anything, and I should be ashamed of myself. I said, if it is a potluck type of party, then I was not aware. The hostess said, well, I guess I need to be more careful about the details and who I invite. Whoa. I said, you can take me off the invite. Apparently, I'll do the same. The next day, she texted me and told me how rude I was and that I needed to apologize to her and the rest of the people in the convo. AITA for refusing to apologize and ending a couple of friendships over this.
Woo! What a doozy.
Wow, I've never felt so strongly, and I know I always try to save the verdict for later, but
wow,
like,
please tell me.
It's very rare for me to be like, everyone sucks here. I'm mad at everyone in this whole fucking story.
Yep. I kind of agree. Yeah, they all suck. I mean, I'm trying to decide who's the bigger asshole. Because we can both agree that both people are the asshole, but who's the bigger one? I'm a little bit torn.
I'm gonna go with the hostess because, like,
yeah.
I mean, honestly, my girlfriend and I have a lot of issues surrounding this.
Do tell.
Well, it's sort of like there's this gap between obligation and like polite. It's like these rules of etiquette that exist,
right?
And I think there's a big difference between like, oh, doing something that fits the etiquette is nice and good and not doing it is rude. I think there's a really big difference there.
Right. I mean, okay, I was definitely always raised to not show up to someone's house empty-handed.
Same thing she always has.
But I feel like not doing that is not explicitly rude.
Okay. Yeah,
it's kind of like if you do it, this is kind of what, and so that's why I'm surprised that this girl like still decided to just show up empty-handed, because she herself acknowledges that she throws these parties and like when her friends bring things, it's appreciated. So it's kind of like, why would you choose to not extend that courtesy and then like go nuclear on people? I don't know. It's a lot. Like, you know, she acknowledges that it's an extra nice thing to do. So like, why not do it?
Yeah, well, you're right. And she doesn't say why not. When I'm invited, she said, when I'm invited to a party, I tend to just show up unless someone has asked me to bring
Which
something.
Seems kind of petty to me because I mean, look, I go to a lot of parties. Rare is it that someone asks you to bring something.
Very rare. I mean,
it's so rare.
So potluck?
I know it's so rare. It's just like, oh no, you're having a party. Like, you don't want to be a dick who drinks everybody's wine or whatever. Like, just bring a bottle of like $6 wine and then you look great.
Right.
It's just a little petty, I think.
Yeah.
Just to be like, well, when I throw my elaborate parties, I don't ask people to bring things, even though I'll graciously accept the things they bring. You know? Or like, I don't ask people.
I don't know. I'm getting caught in like, well, the first thought I have is like, isn't it kind of rude to throw a party and then not have enough shit for everyone to have something? Isn't that a little weird? I would be like, what?
No,
right?
Yeah, of course it is. Unless like people start bringing a million guests.
And then I'm getting hooked on like, so you're talking about all this booze stuff. Well, what about the sobers?
I'm just saying like, just bring some chips or something.
I, in general, agree. And I would have a flash of like, really? You brought nothing, Kyle? Like, so I'm seeing it, but again, I got to come back to even, I don't even know if I'm ready to call that rude as much as it is not polite.
That's the thing. It's not, I think it's a fine line. Like, not doing something that goes a little bit above and beyond is not necessarily rude.
Right.
It's maybe not, you're not like, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, I think you're right.
And I'm also getting a New York specific thing because like going places in New York tends, like statistically, it's a nightmare to get to your place. Like just randomly speaking, like statistically we live an hour apart.
Right.
So just showing up, I feel, is a very good gesture here. So I really am hesitant to like fully endorse this rule.
However, if you're traveling like an hour on the subway, you're going to pass at least 45 bodegas.
I was going to say, yeah. On the other hand, picking up something literally couldn't be more convenient.
Yeah. It's more about the gesture. It's not like what you bring. It's just the gesture of like, okay, also because the host is definitely shelling out way more money, a lot of time to host and prepare stuff. So it's like, you know, you can just show up with a small performative gesture.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I think it's something that people should do. I agree with
Yeah.
the etiquette. I mean, look, forgetting etiquette, because etiquette has this ring of like, this is about tradition
Yeah, no.
or politeness or something that's very kind of rigid and old fashioned.
Yeah.
I would call it an easy win.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
You know, someone invited you to their house. You show up with a little something. They feel good. You feel good. You can eat it. Also, you can bring something and then just eat it yourself.
It's
That's not
true.
against the rules. So it's
Unless you bring the 6-foot party sub.
Right. So I feel like it's an easy win, but I'm not going to go as far as
However, yeah, not doing it doesn't automatically make you an asshole. It's a fine line.
It's a fine line. So, and going to the situation here, I really think the fact that OP's kind of the conflict starts. Oh, I interrupted the conversation and said, did you ask people to bring things? That's not quite a violation.
No.
You know, she's kind of explaining herself because I was not asked and I did not bring anything. And then this hostess's friend says it's selfish and rude to show up at a party without anything and I should be ashamed of myself. I mean,
yeah, that's harsh.
That is crazy.
Yeah, that's nuts. There's a lot of things that one could be ashamed of themselves for. I don't think this quite fits the bill.
Yeah, and like honestly, that attack is so hard hitting.
It's so mean.
It feels like it's about something else because it's like, who is gonna fucking come for someone at that level?
Yeah, like, oh, I should be ashamed of myself? Okay, I'll go to the store. I'll pick up a bag of ice. Like, Jesus Christ, calm down.
Right. I'll pick up ice and throw it at you.
I know, right? But then the OP like goes way, way nuclear, I think.
Well, okay, so then just to go chronologically, she said, oh, I said if it's a potluck type of party, then I was not aware, which still feels like we're in like passive-aggressive
mode, yep.
And then hostess says, well, I need to be more careful about the details and who I invite. And that's sort of like passive-aggressive biatchy zone.
Yeah.
And then she said, I said you could take me off the invite. Apparently, I will do the same. Which to me, this is so understandable in the moment. I still am coming number one for hostess's friends who drops like this atom bomb for no fucking reason.
Yeah.
But honestly, I come to hate OP when she's like, AITA for refusing to apologize and ending a couple of friendships.
Seriously, this is like classic Reddit shit where it's like, oh, someone says something mildly rude to me and I'm just gonna cut everyone out of my life. Am I the asshole? It's like, yeah, kinda.
Yeah,
I mean, you're not obligated to be friends with anyone ever, but also like this seems like a pretty minor understanding.
Right.
Or misunderstanding. And like, okay, if you really want to end your friendships just because you want to be quote unquote right, you can do that.
Exactly.
But it's like you're kind of a dick for doing so.
Well, and I say fuck you for refusing to apologize. Look, if you want to end a friendship, and
you're
what does
big
that
on
mean?
apologies.
I'm huge on apologies because they're free, people. I don't know if you guys are paying or what, but it's like end the friendship if you want to end it. And what can that mean? Well, it means like being non-responsive, I'm busy, or not reaching out. Usually, all it takes is to not reach out, folks. Let's be honest.
It's so easy to end friendships when you're an adult.
But apologize, because you know what? If you apologize and you leave things on even a neutral note, I say that's great. You left a bridge intact instead of freaking burning it. And you never know.
For what? For not showing up with a bag of chips to a party?
Right.
And I just hate that.
Give me a break.
Like, yeah, I like to be right too. I mean, I think the hostess is a little bit. She could have just apologized to the hostess. I don't think she needs to send out this, like, do this group apology tour. That's like a little annoying.
Yeah, well, this hostess's friend attacked at a level where I'm like, I don't know that they are friends. It's a hostess's friend.
I know.
So.
I feel like they probably aren't because I wouldn't speak to my friends that way. Much.
No. And especially like just as you got to the party.
I know.
Like,
it's like, oh, damn, attack me.
Right. Is she drunk? What's going on? Is she
Maybe.
rabid? What is happening? Lisa D writes, you aren't the asshole, but you probably didn't have to tell her to not invite you anymore. That's probably true.
Yeah.
Lisa, well, we're getting all the Lisa opinions in here, Sarah. Right? Your friends sound like pretentious assholes.
Okay, so does OP. I'm known for my large and elaborate parties, and I never ask people to bring anything.
Good Lord.
It's annoying. They both sound like annoying.
I don't want to hang out with anyone.
No, I don't want to go
situation.
to. Honestly, keep me off both your invite lists.
Kevin Hendricks dropping another banger, I'm guessing. Everyone sucks here. It's customary to bring something along to a party, but it's also customary to not talk shit about people who don't. That's a rarely stated custom.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That said, it's also customary to be at least a little bit recognizant and gracious when you do a faux pas. If people are talking about a rude thing in general, you can apologize rather than interjecting to say, quote, it's your fault and I didn't know, end quote. Not sure you could possibly be close enough friends to be an a-hole for setting this relationship out into the ocean and lighting it on fire.
I love that imagery.
I feel like you made a noise when I said recognizant.
I was like, is that a word?
Yeah, that's a weird
No,
one.
I was leaning towards recognizant, but I'm like, I don't know if that's a word. Let's just say discerning.
Discerning.
Whatever.
So
Kevin, maybe you made up a word. It's fine.
Laura Jean Moore writes, NTA, I recently showed up empty-handed to a work party that was apparently an informal baby shower. What kind of fucking Trojan horse bullshit?
Oh my God.
The invite said don't bring anything. People brought something.
No.
So this is the kind of model that Laura presented, which I think is really fascinating. It's called ask versus guess culture. And guessers think askers are a-holes and askers think guessers are passive-aggressive pricks.
Interesting.
And so this is part of this Atlantic article that explains this kind of model. And basically, ask culture is it's okay to ask for anything at all, but you got to realize you might get no for an answer.
Yes.
And guess culture is you avoid putting a request into words unless you're pretty sure the answer will be yes. Guess culture depends on a tight net of shared expectations, a key skill is putting out delicate feelers. If you do this with enough subtlety, you won't even have to make the request directly. You'll get an offer.
Oh, wow. I'm such a guesser. I'm working on this too. I'm trying to actually just ask for stuff instead of trying to like hint around what I want.
Yes.
Especially like in work related situations, but it's hard. I feel like an asshole for asking.
Right. I definitely understand. And especially with the conversations we've had prior about, how it is for women, how women can be perceived. I think part of this is a gender thing.
Could be. Yeah.
I think part of it is internalized unassertiveness, which is
your favorite thing.
Essentially guess culture,
yeah.
Right? You're getting mad because people are asking and they're getting, and you're like, well, it's so rude to ask.
I don't
directly.
get mad when people ask. I just feel like internally so anxious about asking because I feel like I'm imposing. That's what it is. I feel like I'm imposing on someone by asking.
Same. And I'm not trying to say this is just you or you're a weirdo or anything, because I'm the same way about certain things.
Yeah.
And I think it's an important thing to learn when it's okay to ask. I really do feel, let's just go through this because I have some examples that are weird. So Jonathan Chait writes, quote, guessers are wrong and askers are right. Asking is how you actually determine what the asker wants and the giver is willing to receive. Guessing culture is a recipe for frustration.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong, but there's situations,
but also not right.
Folks. Yeah, Julian Sanchez writes, quote, the polite indirection of guess culture is often a way of preserving a deliberate ambiguity. We do this, I think, precisely because those intermediate relationships are ambiguous. We're indirect because we're negotiating just where on the gradient we fall. To ask too directly at that stage can seem rude. And the gradient he's talking about is kind of like acquaintance versus friend or friend versus close friend.
I think that's also true to an extent.
Yeah, and I think it is tough, because like, I don't know, like this relationship is a good example. It's like we're podcasting buddies. We've been friends for a while. We'll get brunch. If you ask me, hey, Danny, I see you're going out of town. Could I stay in your place? Could I do a staycation in your place? The answer would be yes.
Good to know.
It would be, yeah. And we have actually done that for one of my friends. We've offered. They couldn't say yes.
I will house sit anytime.
Absolutely. So that's an example where, it'd be good for you to ask. Because, like, had we not covered the situation, I wouldn't necessarily bring that up to you.
Yeah,
I might forget about it.
I would not think to ask. But cool.
Yeah. So that's kind of the gradient you get in these ambiguous relationships. On the other hand, sometimes I feel an ask can really ruin it.
I know, because you don't want to ask for too much.
Yes. And an ask, I've been using this phrase and I actually Googled Yiddish phrases for a while.
Oh boy.
I keep saying step on a mitzvah, but that kind of covers what I'm talking about. So I did this show.
Is that a real phrase?
No, it's not.
Okay.
No one has ever said anything like it. It's my own phrase.
Okay.
It's Danny Yiddish. So basically I was going to do this show and I was intending, I had the thought that I was going to donate the proceeds to charity, and the person who was producing the show asked me to do that. And I was like, yes. But I was upset that this person asked. I wasn't really upset at them.
Was it a benefit show?
It became effectively at that point.
Okay.
So I was just, I don't know. Does that make sense to you? Like, I felt like I didn't get my good deed feeling because I was asked.
Yes. But it's interesting that you guys both had that thought independently, where you're like, oh, I guess I'm just going to donate the proceeds of the show to charity.
Yeah.
You're having a rich time period, I guess, in your life.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't describe it as
I feel like,
that.
But what you're describing is like a little bit of saltiness that he kind of stole your thunder from doing this good deed.
Right. Well, it was kind of like if I offer it, I get to feel good. I thought it
Yeah.
was very presumptuous to ask that of someone, even though it was my intention. It was almost like the asking itself removed my good intent. There we go.
Right.
It made me someone who was obliging rather than someone who was giving. And
Yeah,
that
that makes sense.
and I wasn't mad at the person. I was just mad at the situation.
Yeah, I get that.
So I don't know, asking versus guessing. I think it's tough. I think, look, where I'm kind of settling on this is it's an easy win a lot of the times to be nice to people and bring something to a party.
Right, especially for a party, I don't think guessers are in the wrong because it's a pretty established social norm, I think. And to do it it doesn't take a lot out of your day. It doesn't take a lot.
It does take a
Like
lot
you're
of
not
money.
right, you're not asking the guesser is not like doing a lot by doing it.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think this is tough. I wish these opinions that are so kind of circumscribed and certain were like the Bible truth, but it's like the truth is it's just going to vary where you stand with someone. I mean, I guess I'll say this. I think the vast majority of the time, it really does never hurt to ask. It's kind of
right.
like
Even in this situation, it doesn't hurt to be like, hey, can I bring anything? Then you look nice just for even offering to bring something.
Absolutely. Nonetheless, for all the pettiness, for all these aside comments, I'm not a fan of OP. I have to say AITA for not bringing stuff to a party. I say everyone sucks here.
Everyone sucks here.
All right, guys. Well, that is the ep. I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll be back. We'll see you next Monday morning.
Yeah.
Bye.